Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Richest YouTube channel. In this particular video, we're going to take our deep dive into Shane Dawson's series called The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star. The really cool thing about that is we're going to be talking about the moments in the video where certain business information and training is exposed and that maybe you didn't see or catch the first time. And I'm going to kind of draw that out and tell you why it's valuable really quickly. So let's get to it. All right, so let's get right into it because there's a lot of information inside of this, even this first video that Shane put out for this year's series, The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star. The first thing right out of the gate, around 2 minutes, Shane makes it clear that there's a lot of information about Jeffree's business that he is not allowed to hear.
The beauty community in general, a lot of questions. Like, I want to talk about all this stuff, but there's some stuff that he hasn't even told me because he's like, it's too much.
Because Jeffree knows that anything Shane hears, the rest of the world hears. So remember something, it's very important for Jeffree, and he's very good at this, by the way, to manage what information is exposed or released to the public and what information is not. Remember, we're just talking about the beauty side. Jeffree Star has all kinds of different products out. I mean, he's got a whole clothing line. So this is just one small part of his business, and it might be part of why he was comfortable sharing it with Shane. So right at the very beginning, another part that happens almost immediately is there's a fake smear campaign. People talk about, oh, that stuff's conspiracies. Businesses don't do stuff like that and attack other businesses and try and shut their competitors down with lies or misinformation or attack their websites. When actually the fact of the matter is that happens all the time and at a very large scale. There's a lot of money at stake, and so a lot of businesses, almost like spending money on ads, they consider smear campaigns and lies as just part of doing good business. It's just good business practice. Look at the political world. All the stories that come out about politicians, how do you know if they're ever true? You can never be sure because always there's an agenda behind it. You know, you're talking about politics, you're talking about industry, you're talking about anything that has money behind it. There's always opportunity for some kind of smear campaign to try and take apart your competitor. Now, I love this part. When Shane realizes that he's just committed himself to an entire year with Jeffree alone.
This is like a whole process. I guess you can't just make a makeup thing. You really gotta go through all of the stages. You gotta do all of this stuff.
How long does it take to actually make that?
Like if we started today from scratch, you could probably get it out in 6 or 7 months.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is, yeah. Lead times are a little nuts.
Okay, interesting.
Now think about that. Not only is that an incredible amount of focus, which most of the world is not able to do. How many college graduates even can really focus? You know, there aren't that many that graduate number one and then go on to get a higher degree like a master's or PhD. You're talking about getting a PhD in industry and in the beauty industry in particular in a year's time. And Shane has just come to the realization that that's what he's committed himself to. Now here's the downside. If the launch is not successful, he's lost an entire year of building new and exciting content to keep his income up. But guess what? It's even more risky for Jeffree because Jeffree is footing the bill for all of it. He knows that Shane can't do it. And so Jeffree is an investor, and he has invested not only money, but his own time and focus, which means that his other businesses are going to suffer. They're not going to be taken care of as well as what he's doing with Shane. That's a real risk. That's a real gamble. So he has to be sure the person that he's working with isn't just a good friend, but is able to focus for long enough to get the job done and make sure the investment turns profitable. Now, this message at the beginning too, where it says that it's not staged, I think that's a really important indicator to everybody watching that they should pay close attention to every detail, because this is not staged, which means that they may not realize that they've left stuff in the videos that exposes information that maybe they weren't sure that they wanted that out, or didn't even realize that it would be considered or twisted that way. So this stuff is actually what's happening as they develop this product and as they build this brand, which is Shane Dawson. And remember, it's not just beauty products. If you've watched the 3 videos that are out already, you know that there's more product involved. So it's really important to understand that what Jeffree is doing is establishing a brand called Shane Dawson. And that brand could sell just about anything. So everything that you see is real. Keep that in mind, because that's the best kind of lesson, the ones that actually work. Now, something a lot of people may never think about is personal security, right? You think about locking your doors, or you think about parking your car in a safe area, but have you ever had to consider what would happen if there were that many people that just wanted to even say hello to you?
My security here, and your new security?
That's my security.
Yeah.
I'm secure.
Yeah.
And it isn't even that they're being mean to you or don't like you. They actually love you. But that can get out of hand. And so you actually have to have personal security. So now imagine if you're working on building your own business and getting money coming into your life to the point where you can do things like what Jeffree and what Shane are doing, then you're going to have to think about certain times in your life when you may need personal security for you or your family or your children or your close friends. I mean, that's a very real thing. Most people don't have to think that way, but if you're actually planning on being successful, you need to be aware of it. Okay, now a little bit further in, you've got strategically placed partners. Now remember, this was a plan that has been very carefully laid out by Jeffree and his team. Shane absolutely had say. He absolutely was part of some of the decisions, but the fact of the matter is the real brains behind the operation business-wise is actually Jeffree. I mean, that's why Jeffree keeps saying, why are you posting these things with other products? You could have made money off that. You did it for free. You gave them free advertising. So what you see just a few minutes in is strategic product placement for partners that they work with. Now, you can be sure in every video that comes out, and this is true of movies too, there is never a single frame in a TV show or a movie, and especially in an ad. And that's what these videos are. They're huge, long infomercials. Not 1 second is wasted on anything that's not necessary. So anytime you see any other product at all, a drink, food, shoes, anything, it's there for a reason. That's the strategic partner lesson. Now, at about 28 minutes in, you see the first example of Jeffree starting to manage his client. And that is by helping him understand what the expectations are. What's the agenda? What are you going to experience? He describes what's going to happen at the store to Shane. He said, listen, there's going to be about 20,000 people there. We're going to go out and we're going to say hello, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do this, this, and this. How do you feel about that?
Are you ready for tomorrow?
No. So how do you do these types of things? Because how, like, if there's 25,000 people there,
We will all go out, say hello. Everyone will be out there watching.
How does that make you feel? And you see Shane just kind of freeze up. Oh my God.
I'm nervous.
About what? Let's talk about it.
Okay. No, I'm nervous because your audience, like the beauty guru audience,
Yeah.
I'm afraid they're going to judge. So
I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. And what does Jeffree do? He makes a joke.
Yeah. Are you afraid of being killed?
I wasn't.
He gets him to laugh. He gets him to relax. He gets him to start thinking rationally. Listen, this is not a big deal. Just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean that you're not going to do great. I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to walk you through it. That's called managing your client. You're managing your team. Shane is part of the team now. He's part of the family, right? So Jeffree, this is the first really good example of Jeffree managing that. Now remember last year, in last year's videos, it was more of an interview. Who are you and what do you do and what do you think and what happened in your life? Now this time, it's Jeffree actually running the show. See, Shane has the camera on, but really the person who's running everything is Jeffree, and he's brilliant at it. Watch him very closely. When they get to the hotel, this is a really good example of how important it can be with security. The security person asks the driver, should we drop them in front or should I drop them in back? And whoever the manager is that's with them, like a tour manager, says, no, go through the front. Everyone's expecting them. And then when they get in there, there's extra hotel security. Shane even mentions it. Who's all this security? Who are all these people? What he doesn't realize is that fans could try and push their way in to meet them and get hurt on the hotel property, even just by accident. That's a huge liability. It isn't just about protecting Shane and Jeffree. See, that's the thing a lot of people think, with security, oh, you're such a jerk, you won't let me meet them. Actually, security on a very regular basis is trying to help fans stop from getting hurt by just being crushed sometimes if the crowd is large enough, or if they run into a lobby and they trip and fall and really damage themselves. People get very strange when they get super, super wound up and excited. And so it's security's job to keep everyone safe. So that question about should we go in the back or should we go in the front is very, very important. And you can be sure the person who said, we can go in the front, everybody's waiting for us, means that she called ahead and asked, what is it like at the hotel? Is it okay to go in the front? Should we go to the back? Is it out of control? Do we need to keep it calm? You can be sure they check those things before they even arrive. Okay, now this part, at 33 minutes, Shane says he feels like he's traveling with the mob boss.
I feel like I'm with the mob boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now this is just reference to what we mentioned earlier, which is the fact that Shane is not being told about everything that's occurring in Jeffree's business. Now Jeffree trusts him, he loves him as a friend, or he wouldn't be helping him. Beyond the fact that it's profitable, they clearly are having a great time together. They really enjoy each other's company, and the way that they each treat each other is extremely respectful and kind and generous. However, Jeffree is very good at managing the situation. And he knows that anything I say to Shane could potentially end up on camera, which means everybody's going to know it. So as a good business person, he has to compartmentalize information. It's not his preference, but he has found, I'm sure, from his own experience in the past, only certain people can know certain things for the sake of the business being successful and continuing forward. I mean, come on. You know that if you've watched these videos, stuff was stolen and it seems like it was an inside job. That is exactly why Jeffree has to be so careful and compartmentalize information. A really good example was when Jeffree keeps mentioning from when he first met Shane. He wanted to just tell him, you're being taken advantage of. I want to help you and you should come on with my team. But he didn't know how Shane would receive that, and they weren't friends yet. They didn't really know each other, and he didn't know if Shane would think he's just trying to take advantage of me, right? But he saw it from the very beginning that this is what I need to show you and this is what I need to teach you, but first I have to get to know who you are. And so he had to compartmentalize the desire to help this good person who he'd just met. He could see from his videos and from his history that Shane was a good person, and he wanted to help right away, but he had to allow the relationship to develop the trust. And that takes time, and it took a year. So the really wonderful thing is that Jeffree, again, shows how smart he is and how patient he is to actually build the relationship the right way. That's extremely admirable. Now, at 34 minutes, you can see Shane and Jeffree looking at a map of the United States, and Shane just kind of makes the side comment. So where are we going to try and take over? And Jeffree jokes, oh, this is the United States, so we've already taken over all of this. That's not a joke. The fact of the matter is, Jeffree Star has completely turned the beauty industry on its head. He has changed everything. So when they point at that map, that's a very serious conversation. It's kind of made in conversation, passing conversation or joke. But the fact of the matter is, that's years of hard work to make that happen. Congratulations to Jeffree. And now he's going to help Shane learn how to do the same thing. At 36 minutes in, Jeffree says something in an environment, in a certain situation, that is extremely vital to their relationship, professionally and personally. They're in the hotel the night before the first show at Morphe, and they're sitting around with friends and colleagues and staff, and they're popping champagne and they're having desserts, and Jeffree says, "Welcome to the family." In that moment, that is actually when the deal is actually really sealed. Because remember, a person is only as good as their word. All the paperwork and all the signatures and everything else before, all of that can be taken to court and tried, right? You can argue semantics, legalese for years, and people do it all the time. Corporations do it all the time. It's really only a person's word that's valuable. And so the lesson right there is, Jeffree, right there, signed on the dotted line with his word. Welcome to the family. He's letting Shane know, I mean it. This is real. We are going to do this together, and we're going to be friends and business colleagues for a long time. How wonderful to be able to see that from an outsider's point of view. Okay, now remember when Shane was getting dressed in the morning to go down to get ready for the first show at Morphe? And he zips up his zippy, and underneath is one of the first Shane Dawson shirts. You may not have seen it right away, but that's subliminal product placement for what's coming in the future. When you watch that video, you can be sure your brain records the whole thing. You may not remember all of it right away, but it's all in there. So that the next time you see that design or that shirt, you can be sure that suddenly you're going to feel like, oh, I like that design. Where do I know that from? And you're going to feel more attached to it. And the more attached you are to it, the more interested in purchasing it you're going to be. That was genius product placement. Okay, this part is one of my favorites. At about 36 minutes and 50 seconds, Shane suddenly realizes, oh my God, what if I fight with Jeffree? This is hilarious because the fear in his eyes is so real. The sheer terror. I've committed myself to this, and what if we have an argument? You know what? Friends argue. If you're a man of your honor, if you're a person of integrity and character, it doesn't matter if you argue. You'll have an argument. Everyone has different points of view. Everyone has arguments. Families have arguments. In relationships, you have arguments. That doesn't mean it ends. What really it's telling you is, how strong is our relationship? Can I disagree with you and still be friends and still be in business with you? And you know what? That's one point I have to say politicians actually master. You may not agree with the politics of another person, but that doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you think they should die. It just means that you respect their point of view. It's not something you agree with, but that's how they like living their life. They like practicing that religion, or they like eating that food, or they like shopping at that store and not that one. What's wrong with that? Variety is the spice of life. So when an argument comes along, take it as, you know what? I completely respect your perspective, but that does not mean I need to agree with you. So let's find a compromise. You want this product to go first. I want this product to go first. I think this should be the color. You think it should be that color. Let's find a way to test what the market actually wants. See, in a business situation, it could be even easier to get over a fight like that because the market's going to tell you what they want anyhow. So just test the market. So that's just a good example of a different way to look at the potential for an argument in personal or professional relationships. 37 minutes in, the first attack on Jeffree and Shane occurs, a fake smear attack. It's incredible to see this actually happen, because people talk about stuff like that being conspiracies, or that the media isn't really driven by advertising, or that businesses don't conduct what's corporate espionage, right? Or even politicians. Why would politicians attack each other like that if it's not true? The fact of the matter is, there's so much money involved in these kinds of situations that a smear attack is just par for the course. It's like paying for a Facebook ad. Okay, we're going to spend this much on our Facebook ads, we're going to spend this much on TikTok ads, and we're going to spend this much on smear campaigns. We're going to spend this much on fake videos that make them out to be bad people so that people won't buy the product at all, so that we can dominate the product or the marketplace. Remember, you're talking about the holiday season, one of the biggest times for revenue generation of the year. That's it. The holidays, for some companies, that's the only time they sell is during the holidays, and the rest of the year they just get ready for the holidays again. So, smear campaign number one. It gets way worse later, but that's your first example. So at 38 minutes, you come to realize how serious Shane is starting to take this. Usually things are kind of a joke and he makes light because he's nervous, but he finally gives you an insight to what's going on inside of his head. He wants to learn how to do makeup for real, for himself, so that when he thinks of colors, or when he decides on names, or he decides on his palette, or he decides on his products, he can do it from a customer's point of view. Well, what would I like? Or what would I use? Why would I want that color? I wouldn't even use that. Or why would I want that product? I wouldn't even use that. It doesn't matter whether he's a man or a woman or anything. All that matters is that he has learned a very valuable lesson, and that is, any industry you enter into, you need to become intimately familiar with. You need to not just research it, you need to soak yourself in it and become part of it to understand who your customer is and what drives them. So on the way to Morphe, Jeffree explains how before every event he has to pee. Again, this is a great example of his genius in managing Shane's anxiety. He's managing his client. What a wonderful way to do it, because not only has he made Shane feel better, but he's also expressed that, hey, I'm human. Just because I'm Jeffree Star doesn't mean I don't have the same basic needs that you do, or that anybody in the mall has. How about all those people outside in the mall who've been waiting all this time just to see us? They probably have to pee too. What an amazing, simple, elegant way to help manage the anxiety of a client. Now, in that same section there, Jeffree shares about how when he released his brush collection, he got a lot of slack from folks. And for the first time, he said, in a long time, he actually let it get to him. And again, now what he's doing is he's helping Shane prepare for not only what he's dealt with in the past, but or even what's coming in terms of that particular visit to Morphe, but what was sure to come down the road. When these things are said, you have to handle them this way. That's what he was telling Shane. I've been there, I've done that, I've had this happen to me, and I let it get to me, and I shouldn't have. I should have said, you know what, I'm on top of this, and I'm going to make this happen. It doesn't matter what you say. And sure enough, in later videos, you'll see Shane start to adopt Jeffree's attitude. And thank goodness he does, because it's so true. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. You do what makes you happy and what you love and feel passionate about. And if you are fortunate enough, like Shane, to have someone as smart and successful as Jeffree be your mentor and a friend, boy, you take it, and you don't care what anybody else says. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even register on the scale. So when they're at the store and they're in back waiting to go out, and the crowd starts chanting Shane,
just feeling Shane after my
I thought, what an amazing example of, and of course now, for the record, I'm sure Jeffree, there's no way he could have known that that was going to happen. But he knew that bringing Shane with him was going to have a certain effect on, not the audience, but on the company Morphe themselves. Remember something, Jeffree has to establish Shane's value to this retailer. He has to establish that Shane Dawson is a valuable asset and he's worth the money that you're going to invest in him when I bring his product out, right? So you couldn't have scripted it. It was, what better way than to have a crowd spontaneously just start chanting, Shane, Shane, Shane. That must have been like a dream come true for Jeffree. I'm sure it was very exciting for Shane too, as nervous as he got. But the fact of the matter, at that moment, Jeffree Star was dancing inside himself saying, yes, that's exactly what we need. Brilliant, just brilliant. So at about 43 minutes, Jeffree manages his public image. He makes it clear that, yes, sometimes I come across as, very harsh or straight to the point or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, I'm a human being.
It's so crazy that you could build all of this and have all of this, and you're still like,
Insecure?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, here we go, biggest launch ever, like
Right.
all that stuff.
Like that cocky attitude.
That-
I can like pretend sometimes to have that, but that's not me.
I actually am not that way. I actually care. I care about others and other people and what's important to them too. I'm a good person. Now see, this is not, what I'm mentioning now does not make Jeffree a fake person, because he did it on camera and he did it very strategically. That clip was there on purpose to make it clear that Jeffree Star is a good person and you should like him and you should invest in him. But that does not mean that it's fake. It means that he finally got the opportunity, thanks to Shane, to be able to share that side of himself with the world and explain that, hey, I just love doing this and I love helping people. And sometimes when people say mean things, I'm going to defend myself because I've worked hard to get here. And so I deserve at least a little consideration for the fact that I've worked hard and been successful at it and stayed focused long enough and stayed on the right track long enough and figured this stuff out for myself that I'm successful. At least give me that credit. It's fine if you don't like me or you don't want to be my friend, but be respectful, right? So it's really great that he had that opportunity, thanks to Shane in this series, to be able to say stuff like that about himself. It's important for everyone to remember. It doesn't matter whether you're the president, it doesn't matter whether you're a celebrity, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're Warren Buffett, he's still just a human being. And they have feelings and wants and needs and desires like everybody else. In fact, it doesn't matter where you travel in the world, what you'll find is everybody wants pretty much the same thing. Now, when they go outside to greet the crowd at Morphe, take note of all the staff members with their phones out capturing that moment. That's very important because what they're doing is they're building their marketing pieces. That is invaluable footage. Why? Because it's a magical moment. You can't script that. All those people came and they're giving all that love and good energy. You've got to capture that moment because you'll be able to use that for years to come. Now, here's my one suggestion to Jeffree. Jeffree, the next time you do an event like that, make sure you get at least 3 or 4 drones in the air. It would have been incredible to see an aerial view of all those people, especially out on the parking lot area too. I mean, you're talking very impressive numbers. So great work. Now, but for all the viewers of this video, look at how many people have their phones out and they're capturing for Morphe, for Jeffree, and for Shane. Jeffree picks up the microphone like a real pro. Now, I know he was a musician for a while, and so it explains why he's so good at it. But the wonderful thing is, Shane gets to watch him do it. He is now training Shane how to be a master of ceremony. That's exactly what he's doing. How do you talk to a crowd that big? You can't talk softly. You've got to talk very loudly and very clearly and short to the point, because not everybody can hear everything you're saying. If they're far away, they only catch certain parts. And then he's not just looking at the people standing in front of him. Jeffree makes eye contact all the way around, all 3 levels. Brilliant work, amazing performer, and excellent mentor. So then Jeffree brings Shane out. Now Shane knew it was a big crowd because he was inside, but he couldn't see all of the other levels full of people too, right? So when he brings Shane out, and Shane goes crazy because there's so many people, that's an important lesson for Shane to realize too, which is, holy cow, this is bigger than I realized, and for Morphe to see the value of Shane again. However, it was also important for Jeffree because it was an opportunity to do market testing. He announced to them, Sacramento, I promise that soon you will have a Shane Dawson eyeshadow. And the response was through the roof. That told him right there, I know exactly how many units we probably need to make. I know we're going to sell for sure. It's not just going to be eyeshadow. Because of that response, we're going to do a whole line of products. This is going to be way bigger than we anticipated. In fact, I'll bet you, let's turn this into our holiday. That's it. We're not putting out anything else. It's going to be Shane Dawson. That little tiny moment says so much. Now, of course, you know that within 30 minutes worldwide that Jeffree actually sold out for his brushes. But the other interesting thing is that when they're walking through the store, notice that that's not the only Jeffree product there. In fact, he has a whole bunch of products that have been out for a while. So each one of those means that he's still making money from all of that too. Remember we were talking about Shane doesn't know about everything? Those are some of it. And some of his other YouTube co-conspirators, partners, right? People that he's working with besides Shane. So just think about that for a second. The numbers that you're getting in this series are just for Shane's product line. What about everything else that Jeffree's had out for so long? Now you can see the real genius of this guy. I mean, he's really great at what he does. And it's just admirable to watch it, to be able to watch it on these videos. At 51 minutes in, it's important again for you guys to take note of this security guy who is assigned to Shane. He has a map of the mall. In fact, if you notice, when they came back inside from standing out with the crowd, one of the security guards, I think it was Jeffree's fella, actually physically guided Shane into a safe zone inside the store. It was very brief, it was just a second, but that's the importance of a moment like that. And having a team member like that, someone who's in charge of your safety, your bodily, your physical safety. They need to know where the safe zones are, where you can and you can't go. If you go here, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be hard to protect you. Remember something, this security guard is putting his life on the line too for you. It's their job to take any kind of attack for you so that you don't get hit. So it's in his best interest to make sure that you stay in safe zones. So don't fight that. But it's just a very different way to think about it too. At that level of success, at that level of public exposure, that you have to think very differently about your own personal safety and your team's personal safety. You're not just paying people's bills by being their employer. In that particular situation, you could be putting them in harm's way. And so you have to be conscientious of that and help take care of them by having the right people on your team and the right services like security. So the last thing I'm going to talk about for this particular video is how incredibly generous it is of Jeffree Star to stay and say hello to all of those people that came and meet with them and allow them to take a picture with them. I mean, that's an incredible, just individual, a person. Do you know how tiring it is to stand for hours and shake hands and greet people and smile every single time and be nice to all of them? It's exhausting to try and be friendly and nice to that many people. Now see, he's met that day thousands of people, right? But every single one of them who met him felt special. that tells you how incredible he is as a person, as an entertainer, as a professional, as just an amazing individual. The sheer energy that it takes to be able to keep that up for that length of time is considerable. So imagine you trying to be happy for any great length of time to complete strangers who just want to take from you. See, that's one of the things a lot of folks don't realize. When you entertain, you're giving energy and people are taking it. Now, some would say that if you're on a stage and the crowd is cheering, you're getting something back too. But it also can be very draining as an entertainer, especially when it becomes one-on-one, because it's so personal. You're not covering a whole group all at the same time. So my appreciation of that particular situation is the fact that he was kind enough to stay and say hello and take pictures with every single person he could physically meet with the allotted time. That's very impressive. So for this first video, I hope that helps give you some insight to the incredible value that Jeffree and Shane are sharing with you, all because they just love you and they want to help you succeed too, even if it's just by being a good model. So from the Richest You to Jeffree and Shane, thank you for all that great information. And from the Richest You to all of you watching, thank you for tuning in, and we'll have the next video for you very soon, so we hope you'll join us again. Now, make sure you put some comments in the comments down below, and also we're going to have the link to the video for the first video for Shane and Jeffree down below for you to click on if you actually haven't seen it before. Make sure you watch the whole thing. It's like very educational. And we're very excited to be producing this little mini-series about the incredible lessons that you could learn just from watching these amazing individuals. All right, until next time, Richest You signing off.